I'm Dr. Sue Holmes, Deputy Executive Director for Professional Learning at the Illinois Principals Association, and I'd like to take a minute to welcome you to this presentation about micro-credentials. Micro-credentialing represents a truly differentiated personal learning system. It allows participants an opportunity to drive their own professional growth based on their individual needs and also receive recognition via shareable digital badges for demonstrating skill competency. Our agenda today is going to take a look at a basic overview of what micro-credentials are, what value they have to you and your organization, how they're developed by our multi-state collaborative representing educational leaders everywhere, and how you can earn a micro-credential. Let's first explore what a micro-credential is. The concept of micro-credentials, represented by digital badges, dates back to 2011, when a group called Open Badges, created by the Mozilla Foundation, specified technical standards for digital badges. Since then, hundreds of issuers from business to education have created and posted badges on different sites, and they can be earned in a variety of disciplines and fields. In 2017, ISB expressed its interest in micro-credentials for skill development and mastery. IPA worked with ISB to begin developing some pilot micro-credentials, and we are now in the further stages of developing and continuing to pilot a universally accessible, nationally recognized micro-credential program for leaders. It's really important to recognize that a micro-credential is not a course. The awarding of a micro-credential actually represents an assessment of an individual's competency by a skilled content expert. So different than traditional forms of learning, micro-credential recognizes a learner for mastering a specific skill. One way to think about that is to consider the badges that are earned by a scout on the path to earning that Eagle Scout designation. So each badge represents a specific skill that's earned over a period of time. Scouts take a look at the handbook and review the criteria for badges and select those that fit their individual interests or needs or are required as part of those Eagle Scout specifications. The scout then participates in activities that support the development of their skills, such as taking classes, attending training sessions, reading books or articles, collaborating with others, self-reflecting, and developing artifacts, etc. So much like the process that scouts follow to demonstrate mastery, educators can choose to earn micro-credentials to represent their skills and to show they have success in those skills that are important to their chosen field. Competency can be acquired through many different channels based on an individual's own time, experience, interest, and learning style. One earner may already have developed competence through on-the-job experience, while another may need to complete workshops, courses, online learning, and research to round out their skill in an area. This is all based on individual time and interest. So micro-credentials are a relatively new professional learning opportunity for educational leaders, but let's take a minute to consider the value they offer for not only the earner, but also the organization. So we look at the value or currency of digital badges, and we know that that value is continuing to evolve, specifically as we look at it from an educational leader's perspective. You should know that throughout the United States, there's a growing number of states acknowledging earned micro-credentials with salary adjustments, licensure issuance, and professional development credit. Even thinking about developing national certifications. So it's very exciting. From an organization's point of view, micro-credentials really allow for candidate differentiation, skill verification, and professional learning alignment with personal, school, or district goals. Let's move next into the development phase of micro-credentials so you can understand how a micro-credential is developed by the team here at EdLeaders Network. So Illinois Principals Association is just one of 8 states that are collaborating to develop micro-credentials with universal application based on national learning standards. Currently, our partners here in Illinois are Wisconsin, Indiana, Missouri, Minnesota, Washington, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey. We have additional partners through EdLeaders Network, but currently these are the partners that are working with us on micro-credentials. So to begin the process, the development team here at ELN in Phase 1 researches the relevant professional standards to identify the target skills and subskills. For example, much of our work is based on the PCEL standards. So in Phase 2, the team authors the micro-credential document with input and approval from content experts in the field, and then we conduct a pilot program to norm both the document as well as the assessment of skills. And then finally, the micro-credential is published for universal access via the EdLeaders Network platform. Micro-credentials are often organized in stacks. So a stack represents an identified leadership skill. The skill or stack is then broken into subskills, with each subskill representing an individual micro-credential. So in this example, we have a stack entitled Leadership Coaching, and there are 3 micro-credentials in that stack: Collaborative Leadership Coaching, Directive Leadership Coaching, and Reflective Leadership Coaching. The number of micro-credentials in a stack are really dependent on the complexity of the skill. Each copyrighted micro-credential developed and offered via the EdLeaders Network contains 6 important parts. These written components are included in a detailed document used as a guide by the learner, and this document includes the overview or introduction to the subskill represented by the micro-credential, the essential outcomes, which are the observable actions necessary for the learner to demonstrate skill mastery, the references, which are the research that supports the essential outcomes in the document, the learning resources, which provide the learner an abridged digest of materials and methods to develop competency, an alignment to standards, and a description of the artifacts that the learner is going to have to submit for assessment. So let's turn our attention now to how an individual actually earns a micro-credential. The earner chooses to earn a specific micro-credential based on their interest, need, or goal. Upon purchase of the program, the earner reviews the micro-credential document as well as the assessment criteria. The earner then completes any necessary learning to further his or her skill and develops the required artifacts to demonstrate their competency. These artifacts are then submitted via the ELN platform for assessment by a content expert. The assessor scores the artifacts and provides detailed feedback to the earner. If successful, the assessor awards the micro-credential and its associated digital badge to the earner. If unsuccessful, the earner has an opportunity to strengthen their skills and resubmit revised artifacts. So those that wish to earn an ELN micro-credential can find the public catalog on the ELN platform at www.edleadersnetwork.org. You'll find a separate micro-credential menu found at the top of the page. As noted earlier, earners receive a detailed micro-credential document to guide their skill development. This document introduces them to the subskill represented by the micro-credential and how the subskill fits into a greater leadership skill, or stack, as you'll remember we called that skill. In reviewing the document, the learner begins with the overview of the subskill represented by the micro-credential. Part 2 of the document contains the essential outcomes or observable actions an assessor should be able to see the learner demonstrate to show competence of the micro-credential skill. Part 2 contains a lengthy literature review that provides background detail to assist the learner in developing and fully understanding the outcomes. The references section provides the earner with a listing of the research that was cited in Part 2, and this list can actually serve as one of the sources of additional learning for the earner. Part 4 provides additional learning resources beyond the Part 3 references to help provide skill development for the earner. This part may include books, online materials, workshops, training programs, courses, videos, or really any other valuable learning resources available. Part 5 provides that detailed connection to national learning standards that I referenced earlier, really helping to guide the learner in understanding where the skill fits into the bigger professional picture. And then finally, Part 6 provides those detailed instructions for the artifacts that the earner must develop and submit for the content expert to examine. And then that content expert will determine whether or not the evidence submitted demonstrates skill mastery. Upon enrollment in a micro-credential program, the earner becomes a member of a specific learning community through ELN, and others who are earning the same micro-credential have an opportunity to communicate with the earner. The community is also moderated by ELN content specialists and really provides a nice interactive way for folks to learn and grow in the same topical area. Earners typically begin participating in the community following their review of the document. Once the individual has completed his or her artifacts, they're uploaded via the EdLeaders network. The assessor then scores the documents and submits feedback using the same interface. And then upon successful completion, the user receives the scored feedback and is notified that the digital badge is available for public distribution via the ELN platform. The digital badges that represent micro-credentials may be shared via social media, blog sites, digital portfolios, as well as through more traditional paper credentials. I'd really like to thank you for joining me on this short informative program. If you'd like more information about the EdLeaders Network micro-credential program or are interested in becoming part of our pilot programming, please feel free to contact me by email or phone. Thanks again.